Hello, welcome to FinTech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have a friend and colleague in the industry, Matthew Halloran, co-founder of ProudMouth. ProudMouth made its name basically becoming one of the prominent podcast platforms for advisors to help develop their own voice and broadcast that to the world. But more recently, they've created a little technology to help advisors in the same category, something called Influence Snapshot. And he's here today to talk about what that is and why what he does is important to the future of everyone's advisory practice. And with that, here's my interview with Matthew.
Hey! Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's right. No, it's all right. We're stumbling over each other. It's all right. We're excited.
I'm happy to be here, my friend.
I'm always happy to talk to you. And I just saw you in sunny California just the other day. So it hasn't been quite long enough, but too long already. So it is what it is. So Matthew Halloran of ProudMouth. Tell us about ProudMouth.
Yeah, my partner Kirk Lowe and I started this in 2017. 2018 is when we really had our first live product. And we realized that there was a huge gap within the industry, which was content marketing. And so podcasting is the hub to create video, audio, blogs, and everything. And that's what we do every day, all day.
Preaching to the choir, clearly. I'm not going to start slagging it unless I'm encouraging people not to do it to compete with me. I'm kidding. There's plenty of room. All right. So that's ProudMouth. You guys, of course, have grown that into a massive production, I guess, studio, whatever you want to call it. Like, how many podcasts have you helped put out into the universe at this point?
So we've done over 10,000 podcast episodes and over 150,000 social media posts.
That is a big number. Huge numbers, right? All right. So clearly you guys know what you're doing in that regard. Now, that's not why you're here today, of course. You basically have come up with something else. You've created something called Influence Snapshot. Yeah. So talk to me about what Influence Snapshot is and why you found the need to create it.
So this was all based off the fact that we were having a whole bunch of people who said, we really want to use your system, but I don't have the team or I don't have the budget to do it. So Kirk and I went ahead and we created our PodRock Academy. And then in the Academy, we realized we needed to create something that was going to be very tailored for people to see their gaps, right? So if you can't really see the results and you think everything's going great when you go into an LMS or a learning system, we wanted to create something that was going to be very quick, very easy to show those gaps within your influence. So we talk about moving from apprentice to expert to authority to celebrity, right? So this is called our influence continuum. And what this snapshot does is it really takes about 5 to 7 minutes and it will drop you a score out of 100 and show you those gaps within your influence and your marketing, really, to be honest.
Okay. So let's talk about what kind of gaps we're talking about. So effectively, what is it measuring?
So what it's measuring is your opportunity to make sure that you are completing all of the things that you need to be as influential within your specific niche. So just so everybody knows, if you don't have a niche, you're not going to score very high because that means that you can't be influential to everybody. And Jason, you and I have talked about that for years, right?
You market to everybody, you market to no one. There's no such thing as a market of everyone.
And I like saying, and this is more tongue in cheek, you're never going to outspend Ken Fisher. You're just not. And so if you're trying to go after the retirement market, you're going up against Ameriprise, you're going against RBCs, the banks, everybody. And it's really, really, really competitive marketplace. So if you don't have major focus, so that's a really big foundation of the snapshot specifically.
And the most expensive eyeballs to buy. Because even like online marketing, when you just look, I'm gonna market on financial planning. Like the cost per click on that is enormous. Now you niche in, and I'll use one of my favorite examples from the Kids' podcast, which was you niche in on financial planning for champion game fishermen. And I got to think that's going to be a really, really affordable click to buy there.
Yeah. I just met with a Canadian advisor at Futureproof, and he markets to independent midwives.
Oh yeah, Ervin. Yeah.
Oh, you know that guy. He was super cool, man. I really liked him. But dude, that's the level of niche. So everybody says, what are you talking about? Yeah. How many clients can you actually take? So just do the math, right? If you want to work with 100 people, you need to have a market of 10 to 15,000 super highly focused niche, and you'll get them.
That's it. Remember, he actually came to me with that niche back in the day. I was like, okay, explain to me their need and explain to me the size. And he went through it. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't know the economics here for 100 household to 1 advisor ratio, but you do have the economics for a 200 to 1. So
that's right. Develop
the service offering around what's going to take to do that. And he's been running it with it ever since. And he gets little comments from the midwives. I meet with him. I feel like I'm meeting with a celebrity. Well, boom, he has accomplished that kind of notoriety. So
And so let's actually take that into the influence continuum and the influence snapshot. So he actually would score very high, even though I do know that there's a couple of guests. He's not creating enough content in order to support that, but he is well known within his niche. So
Mhm.
on our influence continuum, he's really going to be right there in squarely in the authority. So that's a 51 to 75, right on the 100-point score. And if he's going to go ahead and move over into the celebrity stage, I think the big thing that he needs to do would be to create much more content that's focused and then interview the other influencers within that midwife doula market. That's where everything happens.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, that's a perfect example you just stumbled upon, which is hilarious. All right. So take me through the user journey of your tool. What is it like?
Yeah. So what it's like is it's easy and it's wildly insightful. So one of the things that when Kirk built it, so Kirk is the brainchild behind this algorithmically, formulaically, and all of that stuff, is we wanted to trigger ideas. So as you're taking the snapshot, you're rethinking your marketing in the way that we ask the questions. It's just a simple scale that you're going to say, yes, no, I am doing this to my fullest, greatest extent, that sort of stuff. And it takes about 5 to 7 minutes to complete it. Yeah. So more questions. I don't feel like I'm answering that as well as I should.
No, I think it's good. I think and for the record, 5 to 7 minutes, that's exactly what I was clicking on while we were talking previously. Now, my survey answers are probably not going to be too bang on, but really, I'm just tire kicking your software
Yeah.
so bottom line is and there we go. I hit submit a second ago, and I basically got a link to a personalized report that is opening up right now and is basically going to take me through ooh, okay. Maybe I
How'd you
should.
score?
I scored pretty well. I think I answered most of them pretty accurately. Apparently, my expertise booster is 94. I don't know what that is. I'm going to read about it, but I'm happy I scored a 94 out of 100. But clearly, I need to work a little bit more on oh my goodness, my brand booster. Okay. All right. And this is great. I think this is a great segue into what it's
Yeah.
measuring. So let's go one kind of key area at a time of the things it's measuring and telling me to pay attention to. So the first one is your audience. Talk to me about basically what the optimal audience looks like and what you're nudging people towards doing.
Yeah. So you probably scored pretty well in audience, right? Mid 80s, high
Yeah,
80s?
that was 75.
75. Okay. And the reason why I know that is because I know you and I know who you focus on, but you do have multiple markets, dude. You and I talked
I
about that when we
know.
were getting to know. And so that's one of the reasons you scored a 75. So if you are a financial advisor and you're listening to this, and anything that's really below 70 means that you have to hyper focus much more greatly. One of my favorite stories, very quickly, Jason, is an old friend of mine who works with nurse anesthetists, right? Which, by the way, they're very, very wealthy because they make a lot of money. They work really good hours, but they're busy people. And he ended up finding the most famous, and here's where everything wins. You find the most famous nurse anesthetist and you get them to co-host your show. Bob's your uncle, you got a show, and then you're going to become that celebrity, right? So that's really what's important about the audience is making sure that you're not going to have too broad of an audience. They have a very, very narrow focused audience.
Excellent. So narrow focused audience. And this makes perfect sense. Again, the more you can tighten your message, the more likely you are to hit the target. And literally seeing plenty of examples where people have gone so far as to literally brand their own business around that niche, right? And I'll tell you, when I've basically found websites that have done this incredibly well, you land on there and within 30 seconds, you know if you are their target market or not. If you are, you're definitely reading on. All right. So that's audience. Talk to me about the next one. The next one was the expertise booster.
Yeah. So it does not surprise me that you scored very high here because basically the big thing in expertise is that you're being quoted and asked to be quoted on a regular basis within your specific niche, Jason. So you get interviewed all the time, right? And not only for other people's
Sometimes by you, but
podcasts.
continue.
Oh, yeah. So press, and I saw you getting stopped left and right in the time that you had between your meetings at Future Proof. You're a highly sought after expert in your field, right? People know who you are, what you do, why you do it, and why you're so smart. And I want all of you to think about that too. If you're really going to have a high influence score, you have to know exactly the language of the people that you're talking to. One of the gentlemen that I was talking to at Future Proof specifically, and I know this is coming out well after Future Proof, but he worked with high earning double income, no kids in tech who worked for Google, right? So he knows all of the googly language that he needs to know. So he's speaking the language of his ideal target market. And that's wildly important when it comes to expertise.
Googling how many people work for Google. That's an addressable market of 182,000 people. Sure, he's
Yep.
not zooming in on all of them, but the reality is that there's certainly enough of them for him to cherry pick 100 to 200 households to basically service at a very high level of competence and have his name passed around when people say, yeah, like my planner screwed up X. Well, mine didn't. Mine's awesome. This is how he did.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So that was the expertise booster. Let's talk about the brand booster.
I think a lot of people think that their brand is really just like a logo and a name of a company. And if you actually saw behind the scenes here at ProudMouth, we have every approved piece of branded language. By the way, and you know this, but my partner, Kirk Lowe, is a marketing and branding expert, right? That's why we partnered together. The guy is absolutely brilliant. And we have a brand manifesto. And here's how it's supposed to feel when you work with ProudMouth. And here's the team culture that we have. You have to have all of those things fleshed out. And more importantly, you have to make sure that you're consistent across all platforms, whatever client communication, all the way to nurturing leads, that you're saying the same thing. So people come up to you and consistently say the same thing. I can't tell you how many times I'm at conferences and people say, hey, you're the Be Your Own Loud guy. Oh, yeah, I worked really hard for you to remember that, dude. Or Rise Above the Noise, which is the name of our new show, which you're going to be on here in the near future. And so these are branded language is wildly important. What did you score there, Chase?
Branding, I would say not great, 50%, because my core company, like my core business, my financial advisory business, is not specifically branded around my content, right? Like I have separate brands under that. So like basically I've got an entire financial planning for Canadian business owners podcast. So I've got great stuff on one side, but it doesn't it's not connected to the website the way it should be currently. Big project for the coming year, quite honestly.
Yeah. First off, thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people, they don't look at things and don't deconstruct that way. It's everything needs to be ubiquitous. When we started coming out with new products and services, we wanted to make sure that it fit into our whole system. So it didn't seem very compartmentalized, which has been a really big boon for all of our product and service mix that we have here.
Yeah. You don't want to create artificial frictions and cognitive burden here. You want to basically have that. No one wants to feel like they're being baited and switched, right? Like oh, wait a minute. I landed on this landing page for X because I was routed there by this podcast for Y. And now I'm basically being like, I'm sitting on something that doesn't look the same, doesn't feel the same, or the language isn't even the same. Oh, where does this person work? And look, you can have separate landing pages for separate sub brands, but it all has to tie back to the same main brand. Otherwise, there's just a broken message. Yep. Anyway, so next one up, credibility booster.
Yeah. So this is when other people are talking about you, right? So when you have your expertise booster, what did you score there?
Oh, that one was 83.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And just so everybody knows, very rarely
Our scores are not normal. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, no, that's well above normal. In fact, that's where most people score. First off, if they don't have a good audience, they score terribly in the whole thing. But if they do have a good audience, that's really where everything really falls down, because you don't have enough people who are basically ProudMouth. We're a megaphone, right? We're here to amplify your sound. And when you have a whole bunch of megaphones saying, you know, how great you are, that's where everybody wins. So that's centers of influence, that's strategic partners, that's your clients, that's your fans of your organization. And it does not surprise me that you scored that high. In fact, I don't know if I've had anybody score that high in that category yet.
I may have fudged the numbers then. I don't know. I mean, wondering, user error explains a lot of things. All right. Next one up, plan booster.
Yeah, so many financial planners don't have a plan for their own company, dude. It just drives me. I know it drives you crazy too. Which is one
Make
of
her
your
son, man.
Yeah.
Make her son.
Oh my goodness gracious. And so you really have to know what you're doing, when you're doing it, why you're doing it, and really have a schedule. It's that simple. The questions in there are like very shocking, actually. Do you actually have a written 24-month marketing plan? And most people don't. And you scored where there?
I scored better than I should have because I'm at 80, but that's because more recently there's been an exercise to start organizing all that. So timely. And I will say that's not fully written out, but it is in dev. So I'm getting partial points. All right. Next one, sharing booster.
Yeah. And I think you and I actually talked about this at the conference, and we've talked about this previously. Can you give that stat that you started the show with before we hit record?
Oh yeah, this was hilarious. So basically, a Canadian periodical investment executive does a poll on different dealers, and most businesses done through IBDs or full like wirehouse BDs in Canada. And basically, when they asked about all kinds of things, the one that scored the lowest was basically social media marketing support in advisor satisfaction with what their dealer's doing. But then they scored even lower in terms of importance, which I laughed. Like, and I even shared on LinkedIn. It's like, I really said like LMFAO. Yeah, please keep thinking this so I have less competition. And we go on a quick rant here. If you said to a bunch of advisors, there is a place in this world where your ideal clients meet on a regular basis or just pass through on a regular basis, that if you're there, you could actually without looking intrusive, get in front of them and catch their attention. And if you told them that was a building just down the street, they would just race over and they would sit there all day. It ain't a building down the street. It's a building sitting in your pocket. And quite honestly, the fact that they're like, oh, I can't, I'm not going to do anything. I don't know what to say. I don't get that breakup, but I guess not everybody's meant to stand out, unfortunately. Fortunately for some of us.
Yeah, it's hugely beneficial to a lot of people because we do want to be there. We do know that we need to be there. It's not cute to not be on social media anymore. And here's the ultimate truth. If you're not there and you're not participating, your competition is, and they're getting your clients' ears and eyes and listening and all of the above. So if you're not there, somebody else is.
We were just at a conference where their empire was built on content marketing and social media, like legitimately. Josh did not start off with a spot on CNBC. That came, right? And it's just, seriously, people, like an entire empire is being built before our eyes in the US, and it ain't because they're avoiding social.
Yeah.
Although he did quit Twitter, but then again, that's probably a good thing for all of us. Elon ruined it. I'm still there, but I question my sanity every day.
I wanted to give you, so Josh Brown and that whole unbelievable system that they built, after people have taken the snapshot and they figure out where there are gaps in their marketing, I've actually got a guy, his name is Dan Halett. He's in the UK. He runs in the top 30 podcasts in the UK in finance. He did everything himself by learning it through the academy after he found his gaps. And he gets 8 out of 10 of his new clients all come directly from his content marketing. And this is just how much more proof do we have to give people, man?
My friends over at PWL, $6 billion enterprise. And that was billions built off of podcasts and video. It's just, but I will say, let's take a step back and address the elephant in the room when it comes to content marketing. This is one of the reasons why the broker-dealer world is typically terrible at this. Generic, boring, non-personal, standing out stuff that ChatGPT could come up in 30 seconds, that small sound bites, doesn't win anyone over. There is a plethora of that nonsense in the universe. We do not need more. Finding your own voice, but most importantly, in finding your own audience. Absolutely. But the way you find your own audience is you have to have something of value to deliver. And you have to, back to the niche aspects, right? Like my financial plan for Canadian Business Owners podcast doesn't exactly bring me in a ton of business. It does bring in the occasional bit of business. But you know what it really does? When I get other business owners in front of me and wait a minute, you've done over 100 podcasts on this topic. Anyone else they're talking to has done nothing. Who do you think we just talked about these topics. Here's 4 episodes where I interviewed different experts in this thing. Like end of story. The validation is done, like over.
That's the social proof that accelerates your influence, right? That stops you from being obscure, stops you from being the best kept secret in your area. You have to be putting this stuff out. Every time you deposit, Jason, another podcast, you are that much more credible and that much more of an expert than anybody who hasn't started a show yet.
That's it. That's it. And you know what? And one last bit of the rant on here. I really do find it amusing. What's the stat on the average number of podcasts released by every show? It's like 4 before people quit or something like that.
It's 6. Yeah. So 80% of people quit after 6 episodes.
I did 6 episodes and I didn't get any clients. So it's like saying I went to the gym 6 times and I didn't put on 15 pounds of rep. Yeah. What is wrong with the gym? And I give up. Right. Like at the end of the day, it is all about the reps and it's long tailed and personal experience, whether it be newspapers or podcasts or whatever else. And I would think like, I'm just yelling out to the universe. It's been 6 to 9 months. Let this come out and finally get the first one. You know what they say? I've been listening to a lot of your stuff.
That's right. I've been
listening to you for a long time. People don't just hear you one time and go, that's the guy. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. Anyway, so the rant and diatribe over. Interesting one. Synergy booster.
Yeah. So this is when all of the other things are working together, dude, so that your marketing and your expertise and everything is rowing the boat, the canoe in the same direction. And that's really, really important. And what did you score there?
I scored 88, but I think at the end of there, I was trying to get the thing done a little quick. So I may have fudged those answers because we were still, you were finishing your rant and I need to finish this and get the answer. So,
and I think that's actually, I would, because of you have 2, well, more than 2 different business lines that you're currently working on. Yeah. I think that now, are all of them rowing you in the same direction? They are, but I think some of them are probably giving you a little bit more drag than others. And that's pretty common within anybody who takes a snapshot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, there's always room for improvement in this stuff. So overall, you create a very straightforward, simple tool for basically people to just figure out where to look, right? Here's what I'm doing poorly. And of course, you have your basically academy that basically backs into this, that helps them solve that problem. But really what you've done is you created a good lead gen hook to say, just take a couple seconds. Let's just see where you're at. And so how long has this been out in the universe at this point?
About 4 months.
4 months. Talk to me about early reactions. You found,
Yeah.
give me an example of someone who came to you and said, okay, I took this thing and yeah, clearly I got to do something. Something's off.
I'll give you both sides of the spectrum very quickly. So one of our mutual friends, Dr. Preston Cherry, took it. He scored over 90, which doesn't really surprise me because how highly focused and highly niched out he is.
Yeah.
And he said, oh my God, I have a lot of work to do, which is exactly, he scored really high, dude. And I was like, okay, yep. And so we did what we just did was we
The man knows how
deconstructed
to
his
hustle.
score. Yeah. And then I had somebody who scored a 25 and they were angry with me. They were like, there's no possible way I'm a 25. I was like, hold on, you answered the questions, man. Like I didn't answer the question. No, I'm way more influential than that. Because at the bottom of the snapshot, there's a summary at the bottom of your snapshot. Would you mind actually just kind of
summary at the bottom of the snapshot?
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. So let's go to the bottom. Overall influence score, 77 out of 100. I got work to do.
You have work to do. But here's the thing. We all have work to do, dude.
Yeah.
We're professionals. Don't we want to
yeah.
always try to get better?
The job, no job is ever fully. It's the same thing that I say about no art is ever completed. It's just abandoned, right? So at the end of the day, there's always room for improvement in something.
Yeah. I love Pablo Picasso said that the difference between a good artist and a great artist is a good art or a great artist knows when to put the paintbrush down. And I think that's important because a lot of times when, especially in our industry where people have to be perfectionists because of the severity of mistakes in their job. But when it comes to marketing and when it comes to influence and when it comes to really finding out what your gaps are in your marketing, you need to understand that you're not ever going to reach perfection. You need to strive for that 1% better every day.
Yeah, I'm going to use a Steve Jobs saying that's similar to Picasso, which is real artists ship.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, and actually share another story from Dennis Mosley Williams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dennis once shared a story. I think it was his brother-in-law who like builds these like artisanal canoes, right? Which is like apparently makes really great money off it. And they can't think of a more Canadian thing to make a living off of than an artisanal canoe. Okay. So basically he said, so we're standing around looking at them. It's a beautiful thing and just having a beer in his garage. And he's looking at it and he's polished and he goes, looks at me, he goes, they're never really done. They just come and take them away, right?
That's fantastic.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, even those who have massive profiles get paid good money to speak around the country and are publishing books. Even those guys have room to work and they basically see it. Whereas other people, unfortunately, who haven't reached, I don't know who it was who said that to you, but I'm sure as heck I don't know them the way I know about Preston, that frankly, they basically turn around and think that they're bigger than they are. And it's an interesting difference in psychology. It's difference in psychology. What are you talking about? I'm good. Like I should be versus I'm already here. I'm already at the top. I'm already near the top of the game. I need to keep on going to get to the top of the game. Yep. All right. So I guess basically from here, this is an awareness piece, then you back into the marketing piece, and you back into delivery. So you're filling up you're doing your funnel perfectly.
Well, that's the goal, right? To add unbelievable value that's super fast and hopefully get people to take the next step, which is join our academy, right? Once you know your gaps, then you know what courses you need to take. And, that basically completes the system.
Perfect. So before we wrap up, there's 3 questions I ask everybody on a positive note. The first question is, if there was one thing you could change in your company or the industry as a whole, what would it be? It's the stumper.
Yeah, no, it is. It's stop marketing like it's the 1900s. So I was born in the 1900s, as my children like to remind me of on a regular basis. What used to work then does not work now. You got to grow up, got to wake up.
And I'm going to share some stories. I think at some point, you look at the different mediums that have come out, right? And I will quote that the medium is the message. I'll quote Marshall McLuhan on this one, who's also from my hometown. But the point is that we have so failed to adopt to the medium, right? Like we have so failed to adopt our marketing, but every now and then I come across someone who nails it and I start copying them a little bit. First time I found one advisor who told me that they were growing their entire business from Instagram. I'm like, okay, I got how people do this in Facebook groups. I get how people do this in LinkedIn. I get the Twitter aspects. I've got examples of all these. I can copy. How the heck did you crack Instagram? And he said, simple, that you have to take them on the journey. Instagram is all about the journey of your life. I showed them the books I'm working on. Hey, studying for this. Showed them the prep work I was doing with that so inclined stuff, getting ready for this meeting, going to the seminars, all of that. And guess what happened? People in my target age group basically started saying, okay, this guy is out there doing the work. And he was also targeted around his niche, so it worked well. I had another one who's a good friend of mine who basically was the first one I saw crack TikTok. And I was like, man, there's so much garbage out there. And he goes, yes, but if you're the voice of reason, people start
right.
to listen to you. And the best part is the people who are doing the terrible stuff are giving you material to work with by correcting them. And I'm just like, damn you. What a jujitsu move on that. That's fantastic. So I still need to up my TikTok game, but he's got it down. So, all right. So yes, stop marketing like it's 1900. I couldn't agree more. Question 2, what has been the biggest challenge getting the company to where it is to date?
Having the right people in the right seat on the bus. I know, I'm sorry.
Most
I'm
popular
sure
answer is
yeah, it really is. And you don't necessarily know what you don't have until you have it. In the team that we brought in recently, it's unbelievable. They'll come to us and say, hey, Jason, listen, we saw this gap within the company. And guess what? Here are 6 different ways that we think we can fill that gap. And here are 4 systems that are built already.
Yeah.
And so it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, honestly, people think that a lot of times people think it's about hiring people to tell them the work to do. No, it should be about hiring people to tell you how to rethink the work.
That's right. It's been
Yep.
unbelievably eye-opening. It's wonderfully refreshing.
That's it. And then the last question is, what about what you're working on keeps you getting out of bed in the morning to keep on fighting the good fight?
I love podcasting, dude. I am the biggest podcasting nerd ever. Now, I mean, that's what, okay. It was a wild overgeneralization, but I'm really nerdy about it.
You're
Yeah,
ranking. You're putting up numbers, all right?
I really am. And this is what I love. I love helping people interview people better. I love people creating better content. I love people learning how to use their microphone more effectively and just recording much, much better shows. Because listen, you can say the smartest things in the entire world, but if your audio sucks and you don't know really how to set up a show, nobody is going to listen. You could literally be curing cancer, but if your audio sounds terrible and it's really produced terribly, nobody's going to listen. And that really is the hub of our entire spoke system that we have here. Everything starts with the podcast. So you have a great show, you can have great video, you can have great audio, you can have great blogs, you can have great social media. And so I want people to get great behind the microphone.
Amen. As someone who worries about that for every meeting I'm going to have, I always say, have a good mic. Here's what I'll also say. I don't understand how after COVID, people still have crappy mics. My God, if you're doing just a remote work alone, right? Just go out and get a $120 microphone. Like just that amount of delta that it will set, because you won't have to make excuses for it constantly. It's not a big deal.
It's not. And in fact, $69 US is the Samson 2QU microphone, which is a USB plug and play condenser microphone, a directional microphone. Absolutely unbelievable. I should have bought stock in the company because we sell hundreds of these, but that's the microphone we send to our clients because it is a perfect portable microphone that's going to make you sound like a champ.
Thank you for your service and give me that one. I often go with the Blue Yeti I've had for years, and then there's also a couple of others I recommend, but that's the lowest price point one I've come across this one. Well done. Matt, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciated.
I appreciate you having me, and I can't wait to have you on our show soon.
Looking forward to it. So that was Matt Halloran from ProudMouth and what they've done with Influence Snapshot. If you are a financial advisor who has not taken this quiz or has not worked with them in the past, I suggest you do, just for a quick pulse check on exactly where you actually are, to let you know what you need to work on. Because you know what? The one thing I will tell you that I've seen in the FinTech scene and in every conference, the one thing everybody's driving at that is needed or we're doing a terrible job at is specifically organic lead gen. Frankly, there are companies who crack this. They do incredibly well, easy to follow. You just got to put in the time. And as always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please review Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or review your podcast. Until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at jasonpereira.ca.